Hi everyone, it's Cindy from Cindy's Art. Today we are painting a foggy mountainside, and I've used a 6 by 9 inch Arches cold press paper. I taped off my edges with blue velvet painter's tape. And then the reference picture that you see in the upper right hand corner right now, that's from unsplash.com, a great site for reference pictures if you need them. So I am using my silver black velvet brushes today, and that's what I'm showing you here. And I'm going to start off with a 1 inch and then a 3/4 inch flat brush. And I'm working wet on wet, so I wet this paper down really well. And then because it's cotton, I let it sit and I let that water soak in to the paper. I'm using my 3/4 inch flat silver black velvet brush, and I'm dipping it in a tiny bit of neutral just to mark off a few trees. When I'm doing this, you can see how that paint is spreading into the background. If that paper was more wet than what it is right now, it would spread everywhere, and I don't want that. So now I'm going to use a little bit of horizon blue and Veriditer blue, and I'm going to just create some of the fogginess of these slopes for the background. And then I do add in a tiny bit of permanent violet into that background as well. So look at your reference picture and get a feel for what colors are there. Besides, if you see that there's white, look for orange colors. Look for this tealish color, this horizon blue. Look, that's marine blue there. Look to see what other colors you see, and instead of having it be white or gray, add in the blues, the purples, the teals. It'll add interest to your painting. Please be sure to hit that like button and subscribe button while you're watching the video. If you're enjoying it, that'll help tell me which videos to make more of, and I appreciate you being with me today. Now I'm going to continue using this vertical stroke with my brush to add in more trees, and I'm alternating some of my paint colors. I'm using marine blue mixed with a little bit of neutral. I'm also using some sap green mixed in with the marine. And there's times I'm going to pick up a little bit of purple and add that in there. I'm trying to add interest, and one of the ways I can keep my painting interesting is by me having a variety of colors in here. And that means that one tree is not going to be just solid green. I'm actually going to have a little bit of blue or maybe a little bit of purple. So just watch to see how I do that. And you're seeing me use the brush vertically, and then you're seeing me turn it and use just the tips of it to add in some branches horizontally. Now I'm re-wetting that background because it has dried out by this point. One of the things that you'll find as you work with watercolor is you need to know how humid your room is or how dry it is. So there's times where I'm running a heater in the winter and my paper can dry in minutes. So I have to watch it, and then I have to make sure that I stop painting, let it sit, and then re-wet the paper and start working again. So I am using a flat edge brush, and I'm going to continue to add in trees towards the background. And some of these trees I want to create, I want them darker. So I'm going to go ahead and continue to use this vertical stroke. Remember, I used a pencil just to give me an idea of where some of these trees were. And I'm going to dab these trees in. I'll change up the colors, and then you can see I am not taking them all the way down to the base. We're gonna create a little bit of fog here soon, which is always exciting to me, and we'll talk about that when we get to it. One of the things you're going to notice is that I'm using a very light color in the back for some of these trees. And when I look at my reference photo, that is how that looks. If you're looking out into the distance at a mountain, at a foggy hillside, you're actually going to see those trees very misty, very light. So I'm using a little bit of my marine and my Verititer blue mixed with a tiny bit of neutral. And the paper is still wet on wet. The paint is very soft, so it just looks like you're suggesting trees. We're almost to the point of working with that fog. Now let's create a little bit of fog. I'm using a number 14 silver black velvet brush. This brush holds a lot of water, and it can hold a lot of paint. It also is a great scrubber, and that's what I'm doing right now. I have a clean brush. I do not have anything more than water on it. As I put that water on this paper, I'm scrubbing up and into the trees. And what that's going to do is lift paint off. It's going to lift off some of the bottom of the trees that I created. And you can see how there's this white fog that's coming in from it. So that's one of the ways that I create fog, is by taking a brush, having it clean with just water, and I move it into the painting, and I scrub towards the bottom of the trees, drag it down according to the direction that the fog is going, and then I'm going to lift that up. You could take your paper towel and dab that as well. If you do, it's going to lift off more of the paint off of the paper, and it'll give a more emphasized foggy look. So I've done that part, and now what I'm doing is going back in, and I'm starting to add a few more colors for my next layer, and then we're going to repeat this fog process again. We're going to get into a little bit more fog techniques as this painting goes on. Right now what I'm doing is just trying to solidify the front part of my trees, what's closest to me, and one of the ways I can do that is for me to create a little bit more detail or darkness, and that'll show up at the tree trunk and then in the branches closest to the tree trunk. So I'm just adding in detail. I'm continuing to use a flat brush. I use it vertically and then horizontally. As I've played with this picture, what I'm doing now is getting to the point where I want to add a little bit more detail to the top of the trees. Fog rolls down that mountain, so the tops of the trees are going to have a little bit more detail to them. So I'm going to continue to use a wet on wet technique, and I'm going to use the vertical and the horizontal brushes, and I'm using actually what's called a rigger brush. This is the silver black velvet, but this is a rigger, and what that means is that it's got long brushes, long hairs on it, and it's very thin, and that makes it a lot easier for me to add detail in. So right now I'm just paying attention to the tops of the trees and adding in a little bit of detail to help define that these are trees, there's layers of these trees, and we'll keep moving forward. When I looked at my reference photo, I'm just seeing a variety of trees. I've got my back line developed, I've got my forefront line developed, what's closest to me in the picture. And so I need some other trees that are added in there. And what I want to do is create some of those trees to add a little bit more dimension into this mountain so I can see layers of trees going back and back and back. And then when I'm using the squirt bottle, it means that I have a harsh line that's at the bottom of a tree I just painted. I want to soften it up. So I can do that with adding a little bit of water, squirting it on there, but I don't want to ruin the top part of that tree. So I can use the sponge, block the top of the tree off, squirt towards the bottom, and the paint is just going to run down a little bit, and then I can swipe it up if I want to. So fog is a lot of fun to play with, so don't be afraid to try it. And sometimes I would use the back of a painting that didn't come out really well so I could practice something like this. But I recommend like an Arches cold press paper because it's a good quality. And if you need to paint on something that, you know, a picture that didn't come out that great, with Arches I can use the other side and it looks pretty decent. Now, as I move forward with my painting, I felt like I needed more of the blues in the background. So I'm adding that color in, and then you can see that I'm using that squirt technique to cause my paint to run upward. So I'm tilting my board, I'm adding some colors in. I just want to emphasize mist, and I want to emphasize that sky. So I am using permanent violet up there, and remember that horizon blue that we used in the beginning when we were painting the beginning part of this mountainside. I'm using that again. It's a great way to repeat those colors, have them show up in a painting. And then I'm adding a tiny bit of ultramarine blue deep in there. So I'm just looking to try and define that sky and see what I like. And you can see that I do trial and error. And then I'm also squirting with that water. And what it's going to do is create this swooping texture that we're going to see come out with the sky. It's a lot of fun. So after all that work, take a look at that beautiful sky. There's such a nice softness that's up there, and I feel like I've got some nice clouds that are coming in, and on the left, on the top, I've got that darker cloud coming in. I almost feel like I'm looking at a little bit of sunshine. So to continue and build the layers of the trees, I decided to go ahead and use my horizon blue and my marine blue, and I'm adding in a very, very soft layer of trees in the back to create more depth. One of the things I will do while I'm working on a painting is I'll take it, lay it on the floor, step back about 20 feet and look at it, or put it on a counter or a mantle top, step back, take a look at it. I love the way the back of that painting came out, that far in the distance trees and then those clouds. That came out really well. So I felt like I needed to just step back from that, get out of it so I don't touch it and ruin it. And so what I'll do is I'll go back into a different area that's dry. Down here on the bottom, these trees that are closest to us, I'm adding in more detail. I want my viewer to see the softness of the fog and how the trees are kind of coming in and out. You know, they're not all the same type of texture and they're not all the same type of softness and hardness. But the trees that are closest, I'm going to finalize this painting by creating enough detail where you feel like you're looking out a window and you see these trees, and then you're caught and you're looking out into the distance. When I looked at this painting, I decided to just soften up just a few edges around. I did that with that clean, clear brush full of water and just soften up a few edges. The painter's tape that I used to tape this painting down worked really well. When I use up a pad of paper, you're left with this cardboard, and the cardboard back of that paper is what I use to paint to tape this down. So this is the beautiful painting I think that you've probably finished. I would love to see it. Please be sure to check out the other videos that I'm recommending that are with fog and mountainsides, and I am so looking forward to seeing you the next time.